When I came in to get confessed for the first time in 2021, I unleashed everything. When you start looking at pornography, it's like cocaine almost. You need a stronger dose every time. So the normal stuff, it's not appealing anymore. So you start to go the hardcore stuff and you start watching things that you never imagined in your life you would watch.
If you're in a relationship with a man who's addicted to watching too much pornography, you will see that his life is going to be affected because of this. Because I think that's what porn does. Porn creates a void inside of you that you're always constantly trying to fill that will never get filled. Here today, we have a very special man. His name is Dimitri. He is the creator behind the short film, The Addiction Status. And this is our first time actually meeting in person. But originally, when I saw that he released this film, I started having a conversation about him because it was of a very important and interesting topic to me. And The Addiction Status, to me, when I first saw it, is as a film that battles men's addiction to internet pornography. And, I just love short films because you have to mix and mash and just kind of like squeeze in as much meaning and story as possible in just, less than 10 minutes, right?
That's true, yeah.
So, when I watched it, we had a long conversation about it and I wanted to talk to you about it and I wanted to, find out your story behind The Addiction Status. So, without that further ado, I'm going to introduce you, Dimitri. Welcome to my home. Welcome to my podcast studio. And tell me a little bit about the film and maybe what was your inspiration behind the film to put something out so powerful and something so vulnerable.
Thank you, first off, for welcoming me to your home. And I brought you some baklavas.
Yeah, let's have one. Cheers. Cheers to one.
Yes, of course. There you go.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
All right. Oh, man,
Boom.
delicious.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make sure to keep away from the microphone so we not be smacking.
No, not have a bunch of nuts flying onto the onto the microphone foam. It's okay though, but it's all good. I appreciate it.
It goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, that baklavas are very, very good. Mm-hmm. So I highly recommend them. Get them here at Adonis in Ottawa. And Gatineau, we are not sponsored by Adonis, not yet, at least, but
one day.
Eventually, one day. And so again, thank you for welcoming me to your home. So the reason behind The Addiction Status, I would say it was one time, we have a local film festival here for people that don't know. It's called DJ60 here in Ottawa. And every month or so, they give you a theme to the short films that they want to see at this year's festival. And the theme was either prison or breaking out.
Okay.
And with that theme, what I got from it was that story of it stems from personal growth, basically. It talks the story of The Addiction Status. It's a short film about a young man who struggles with internet pornography, as you said, and tries to have a better relationship with God. And it stems from my own insecurities. And I felt like during the pandemic, when everybody was having troubles with their relationships, everything was, they couldn't go out, they couldn't do the things that they want to do. Something positive happened to me and my relationship with God grew. I started praying more. I went to confession for the first time in 2021 with my priest. Shouts out to Abuna Nectarios for the St. Elias Parish. Antiochian Church, the one on Riverside in Mooney's Bay. Mm-hmm. And
that was the one in the film, correct? And
yes, that was the one in the film. Yes, that we filmed in. I ran the project by him. He was stoked about it. He let me go inside and everything, and he let me film it. And when I came in to get confessed for the first time in 2021, I unleashed everything. And my priest Abuna Nectarios, he was very like, thank you so much for being so vulnerable. Now the real work starts.
Well, I mean, I know it's a very secret between a confession between you, him and God and stuff like that. But like, can you shed a little bit of light on the nature of what that was, and how old were you at that time? Like, when did this happen?
Yeah, so in 2021, I was 23
Okay.
when I came in, and I was sharing a lot of things, all the internet pornography I was watching, and usually what happens, and I'm sure you did your research on it, is that when you start looking at pornography, it's like cocaine almost. You need a stronger dose every time, so the normal stuff can't
Desensitization, yeah.
and it's not appealing anymore, so you start to go the hardcore stuff and you start watching things that you never imagined in your life you would watch. And I was speaking about my mental health as well, that I was not in a good mental health when I came in. I was working at the Ottawa Public Library, and there were days that I would just walk into the office and I would just cry. And thankfully, there was the LifeWorks hotline that I would call, and someone would be with me. And that's the gist that I want to get to, is that to the people listening, if you feel like you're down, there's always a way to fix it. You just call someone, go talk to someone. There's resources for you to take. Don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. That's what I want people to understand through this.
How did you know that internet porn was like one of the, because it could have been many things, right? A lot of young men go through a lot of these issues, mental health, issues with their relationship, issues with their friends. How did you know that that it had anything to do with internet pornography?
I believe it affected a relationship that I had when I was in high school.
You keep going. Yeah.
So I was in a relationship in high school, and I was a heavy porn consumer back in the day, and thankfully that woman that I loved dearly in high school, by high school standards, I loved her a lot, and we were just horny teenagers, man, back in the day. And we were all over each other. But the thing is, because of the pornography I was watching, I was expecting something better.
More.
Something more. Like, okay, that's it. Like, why can't you twerk? Why can't you do this thing that I want you to do?
Was that your first sexual partner, or was that...
No, we did the preliminary stuff mostly. Okay. I had a sexual partner afterwards in university. Okay. But that one, it just affected my relationships. It was in a bad way. I would now that I look at it, I honestly, I didn't deserve that 6 months relationship, because of what I was all, glued to her the entire time. I wanted affection. I wanted something more. And pornography was pushing me to just think about that stuff. Just think about, I need this affection. I need to have sex. I need to do this. When in reality now, sex is not such a big deal. It's not as important as the internet and the media wants you to think.
Yeah, I think it's very dangerous, especially, and I say this to a lot of men and boys who are a lot younger than I am, right? I'm 37. We have about a gap of about 10 years between us,
that's
right?
crazy.
So the crazy thing about that is that a lot of generations now are growing up, and they could be consuming internet porn for well into a decade before actually having their first real sexual encounter.
Yeah.
Right. So think about the long-term programming that you're putting onto your brain when it comes to what sex is supposed to look like. The terms leading up to sex. What does that look like? Respect for a woman. What a woman is, how to treat a woman, and then when you actually finally have your first sexual encounter, how different that expectation could be, which could be very, very a big shock for a lot of young men. Right.
And it was honestly, and we speak about this all the time, where high school, when they teach you about sex ed, it's really about the diseases. It's about how, be careful not to get this, It's not about intimacy. It's not about the Kama Sutra or the different, or how religion can impact your sexual health. How can you, how each religion sees how sacred sex can be.
Oh yeah, you're not getting that anywhere now. Like where can you get that information these days? Right?
Nobody's telling you because they're just relying on that, and it's very, very old. When I was in high school in 2008, it was the same thing. This is how you put on a condom. Watch out for all those diseases that you're not gonna get. So don't have sex. That's what it meant.
Yeah.
But and now, because of the confession that I went to, because of the religion that I'm growing into with Christian, I'm an Orthodox Christian, I just realized how sacred it is and how important it is. And then you can't just, have a quick nut and just do it like that and just releasing your essence into the world like that, when your essence, it's you. It comes from you and it's sacred. And it comes from God. Like everything that God has created is sacred. It's just us as human beings, because he blessed us with such a big intelligence. We use those tools to craft something for us out of selfishness. That's the way I see it.
It's very powerful. I think finding a faith and putting your trust into God to fill that big void that was left inside of you, right? Because I think that's what porn does. Porn creates a void inside of you that you're always constantly trying to fill that will never get filled. What advice do you have for young men who maybe are not not Christian or not of faith, or maybe they don't have that outlet to be able to reach out to?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I'm still struggling with this addiction. So what I feel like my advice would be to find a community who you relate to, who are supportive, who are going through the same thing as you do, because like you're struggling with the same thing. So they're able to share their experiences. You're able to relate. You're able maybe to pick up some new things that you can try to improve on with this addiction. But also, like, it's about keeping yourself busy, doing your inner homework. There's a lot of self-help books, but it's a really, when it comes to that, it's really like your acquired taste. So you have to like shop around and see what you like. It's about ultimately knowing yourself, discovering, okay, what makes me tick? Why am I doing this? I journal as well. And it helps. Like, it's just asking yourself questions. Okay, who am I? What if I'm put in this specific situation, what happens? What do I like doing? And if you know what you like doing, for example, filmmaking and acting and stuff, it gives you a reason to pursue those things, because if you're sitting idle doing nothing, you're going to think about this stuff. Automatically your brain is going to go to porn and sex. Yeah.
What is the message that you were hoping to get across with your film? Were you thinking about a particular audience? I know the film festival that you were submitting it to was for everyone, right? So you're going to have men watching your film, you're going to have women watching you're going to have everyone watching your film, right? What message were you hoping to get across from that, across different audiences?
Yeah. The message that I wanted to get across was, at first, the way I structured the film was really that I wanted to show how basically God changed my life, and how it changed the way I view women, the way I view pornography, the way I view things. At first, the way I edited it out and the way I wrote the script and I approved it with my priest was, it felt like a lecture. And when I had the final product, I sent it to a festival programmer, and he said, it's like your film, it fits to a specific audience. Like you mentioned earlier, not everybody is Christian. Not everybody can relate to that. So he just said,
how did you feel about that when they said that?
It kind of sucked, to be honest. I understand nowadays with all the troubles of the world, not everybody can turn to God and be vulnerable, because being vulnerable sucks. Nobody wants to just air out their business like this. Everybody's afraid for their safety now, I feel. and society is trying to like plug in, oh, look at the inflation, look at the housing crisis, look at poverty. So you get all this information in and you don't want to do anything. You're just going to stick to your guns, not help out other people. But sorry, we're going on tangents. But to go back to, so I took it. I have a like, sometimes I have trouble taking like things personally. I was working through that, so I was taking what he was saying and trying things out. Let's see if I modify it like this, turn it into a satire versus a drama lecture thing. And surprisingly, the message came across stronger. To see a guy who has his routine, he's trying to like get removed from this addiction and he's struggling. It's like, oh, not again. And he's going. So you see that a bit of humor in there. It makes it, I guess, a little bit more watchable, if that makes sense.
I love how you put it together. I really love the routine, like the every single day, this is what happens, right? And it to me, the message was that like, you know, watching porn and masturbating is just as much a part of your day as getting up and brushing your teeth. Right. And I would disagree with what he said because, you know, when he says, oh, this is not applicable to all audiences because, you know, maybe it's like it's about male masturbation, male porn. So maybe women would be alienated, or it's Christian faith. Maybe not everyone's Christian faith. I would completely disagree because this affects everyone. Right. If you're in a relationship with a man who's addicted to watching too much pornography, you will see that his life is going to be affected because of this. Right. And just faith can be replaced by so many different things in interpretation when it comes to film. So I would totally disagree with that notion, but I'm glad that you took that challenge to be able to go back to your film and then add that, you know, satire kind of humor element to it, which 100% would make it more effective, impactful, watchable, whatever you want to say. So I really, really enjoyed all of that, just to say.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. A lot of people are very supportive of what's happening. Thankfully, I was surprised. I was like, for a while, usually, as you know, as a filmmaker, I'm sure when you had a short film, it's like your baby. It's a very personal film too. And you submit it out there to film festivals. And nowadays, I'm learning more that you actually need a strategy when it comes to your film festivals, the way that you apply for them and everything. Because I was applying for film festivals left and right. I just wanted my project to get seen somewhere. And thankfully, it got picked up 4 times now, which is a blessing. I thought but that's after like 30 rejections.
Of course.
That's what I want people to understand is that it comes at a price, so to speak. Like it happened with the other short films that I directed in the past, where I would have like 0, sometimes like no, like it feels hopeless. Like with just 30, 40 rejections, and all of a sudden just one selection for 40 rejections.
Speaking of price, though, like the price that you had to pay for that, like even putting yourself on camera to tell that story, being that actor, being that vulnerable about that side of your life. I know a lot of men, and you know the thing is, like when you talk about internet porn and you talk about masturbation, like you ask the general public, they'll tell you that's not a problem, right?
Yeah.
They'll tell you it's not a problem because it's like super generalized, right? That everybody does it, it's everywhere, like literally it's a normal part of everyone's day. Nobody bats an eye at it, right? To put yourself out there and to show that it is a problem, and not only is it a problem, it's a problem for me. It requires a lot of like vulnerability. Like, how did you feel about that? Did you feel, embarrassed to put yourself up there to let them know that this is a problem? Like, what was your thought process of like putting yourself at the forefront of this whole issue?
At first base, I felt, because I'm going to tell you that story, where at DG60, you get to, there's a writing pitch that you can do. With the theme coming out, there's writers that come out and they pitch an idea for a project, and the filmmakers in attending that meeting, they can choose to reach out to you to make that movie. So it was my first time pitching that idea about breaking free, basically. And I came in and my friends were like stoked that, okay, he's coming to pitch something new. I pitch it it was very at first like the project. It seems very undoable because there was like a lot of locations, a lot of characters, and this amount of time. It didn't seem reasonable. And after my pitch was done, my friends were looking at me. Okay. Like in a weird ways, like, don't ask me to do your movie. Don't ask me to do your movie. But, especially in the movie, because I speak Arabic and I showcase my Middle Eastern side and my Middle Eastern culture, there was a Palestinian man who came out to me and he said, we came out and talked to me and he said, I applaud you for being that vulnerable because in our community, this thing is very, very taboo.
100%.
Like if you, I'm telling you, if you watch like Lebanese soap operas or Syrian soap operas, now they're starting to show kisses on film or on TV. But it's very, very taboo. But the West considers it, like you said, just a normal everyday problem. Yeah, it's
still a little taboo though. You're not going to show a guy like really jacking off on camera, really, right? Like or implying it, even right. So, even by both standards, I found it very courageous. Is what I'm saying.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. But even with that, like at first I was discouraged. Then some people were very like applauding me for doing it. And the results show, like even through all the struggles from making it, I paid it from my own pocket. I didn't have any funding towards it. I found some really good creatives.
The other guys who were a part of that film, like how did they feel about the message? Were they excited to be a part of the project to tell a bigger message?
I believe so. They were stoked that because we worked with each other before. So I think they were stoked to see that one of our peers has a project that we can work on. We're coming back together on set. And I met Romanesh for the first time on this project. And Jeffrey, I see him in acting classes all the time. So we decided to do something together. And because, as you know, our profession is very competitive. So sometimes you have to create things for yourself.
All the time.
Instead of just waiting for that phone call for your big break. So
exactly.
But no, they were very invested in the project. They were willing to make it great. They liked the theme, I'm sure. It was very vulnerable. I came in prepared. I had my storyboard with everything, and they were... I guess they were willing to be that vessel to bring that message.
Did any of them like pull you aside and be like, whoa, like this is something that I'm struggling with as well? Or like, did you have any personal conversations? Did the creation of that film with that crew open up any of those conversations?
We had conversations about it, but it didn't really stem anything inside of them. Like they weren't technically struggling with that aspect, but they were kind enough to help me vehiculate that message to other people.
Yeah. So I don't know if you agree with the same thing, but when it comes to me, it's like anyone who consumes porn on a regular basis, to me, I think that they're struggling with something. Like I think that like there's a way that you can consciously maybe consume pornography. But I think that if you are doing it regularly enough, then it is something that has a bit of a grip hold on your life, right? No pun intended. But do you agree the same way? Like, do you agree that like anyone, because it's really hard to find men who just do not watch porn. Actually, they had done studies in the past. They tried to do studies they tried to find a control group. Of course, they can find plenty of guys who consume porn, but to find a control group of guys who just didn't consume porn, scientists found it very, very difficult to find men like that, actually. So nowadays, as we've gotten more awareness towards the effects of it, that it has on our psyche and on our lives, men are starting to pull themselves away a little bit more from it now, right? But I would be like, I'm just going to guess and just say like a lot of these men that were part of your set were affected by this, maybe felt like it was a very powerful message, but maybe we're not ready to share. Maybe we're a little bit shy or nervous to be able to share their personal experiences with you when it came to it.
Probably, but it wasn't like I was glad that the environment on set was safe enough and fun enough for them to not have any issues with the themes that was vehiculated through that film. And they were ready to help me regardless. Even they encouraged me once, like even in the scene where I'm releasing myself.
Yeah.
Like they were telling me like, no, pull your hand up more so we can actually see the motion of jerking off. And even like, I'm going to share a little secret about the film. I wasn't actually, what was on my phone, I was not jerking off to porn. I was jerking off to like a meme of a cat jumping up and down and stuff. And my sound mixer, Charles, is like, if you can jerk off to this, you're a real actor, okay? You just knocked it out of the park.
Oscar-worthy performance.
I know, right?
But I guess one final question I have for you is, to me, this is such a powerful film, such a powerful message.
Thank you.
Do you have any intentions to continue making films about this particular message?
Yes, I intend to. I want to get, hopefully we'll see what happens. The world changes constantly. And I'm just going to adapt to what happens to me. But I want to share more stories about how Christianity can influence your life in a good way. Because I feel like a lot of the Christian films we watch nowadays, if it doesn't talk about the lives of the saints, it talks about, like, I'm sure you watched like those Hallmarky Christian movies where it's like a very white suburban family who has the Bible constantly on them. And all of a sudden they flip, they don't believe in God anymore. It's like, that message spreads to one type of audience and it doesn't include everybody else. Like a lot of the movies I see in Christianity talk about like Catholicism, but there's also orthodoxy that talks about just the love of God, how the deepness of God's love and how it can change your life. So I want to explore that aspect a bit more, and hopefully talk about the lives of the Orthodox saints too, and all that kind of stuff, and talk about poverty, talk about like meaningful stuff, but also some fun stuff too.